Thank you, Master of Ceremonies. Minister Marape, I want to acknowledge your continued leadership in this space. Thank you very much for your push that SEZ must be unbundled at the earliest and for us to assist in growing the economy. I want to also acknowledge other leaders who may be in the House. I want to appreciate all members of the diplomatic family, all special guests from far and near to home who are here accepting invitation to come in and be part of this second SEZ summit to be held here. I want to also appreciate those who have sponsored this summit. Continued work in growing the economy should be mutually beneficial to all of you who are here. I want to apologize for stepping in a little bit late. I was coming from Alata. Over the weekend, we made a historic drive from Port Moresby to Alata. Port Moresby had remained one of our most isolated national capital. In many countries, nation's capital is linked by road. Port Moresby has been nation's capital that is only connected by two provinces. Today, as we speak, you can now drive on four-wheel drive from Leh to Port Moresby or Alata to Port Moresby. For the first time in 50 years, connections and opening up road in Port Moresby has been reached. And so I had to take time out. On Friday, I went into one of the remotest places in our country, so close yet so far, a place called Kodidanga. 4 years back, I stepped into a substation, a remote station called Kantiba, in the same mountain range. And they asked if government could find a road at earliest. And I did promise that the road is coming. It was one of the joyful moments of my life to stand at a place to see excavation done, excavators in those villages. People connected to Leh and Port Moresby for the first time. And so my travel out to Alata and back has cost me a little bit of delay in my attendance tonight, but I want to say thank you for all of your attendance. Pastor Akia, once again, nice to listen to words from the scripture, as you always say. Papua New Guinea is not bad either, from what many may say. Of course, our economy remains at $30 billion, $32 billion, or in Kina terms, right now as we speak, is approaching 132 billion Kina. We were 79 billion Kina when I took office in 2019. Most of you who have followed my speeches would understand that in my maiden speech I did pronounce that we must reach 200 billion Kina at the very earliest. That will enable us to have this size, the economy that should sustain a population that has grown. And so we were embarking on many and every possible policy metrics that will assist us growing the economy faster than the rates of economic growth that our country have known since 1975. And tomorrow I see in your speaking lineup some eminent speakers who will speak and who will have more authority in data and statistics in respect to the journey of our country the last 50 years. One of them notably amongst us tonight, Professor Stephen House of both PNG and Australian National University. They will indicate to all of you who are coming for the first time as to where our country have come from and where we are today. And the conversations that I am speaking and Minister Marape's address to you tomorrow should point all of you to the destination we have wishes for our country. Since 1975, we were an economy at 1975 sized under $1 billion in terms of the economic size. At a $1 billion economy with a population just facing 3 million people and a land size that is bigger than Japan, bigger than New Zealand, to give you some context, and a people of so much diversity, with just under 5% of that attaining some level of education. That was our starting point in 1975. And so for those who want to criticize my country, please give second thought. From where we started off in 1975, whilst we have many deficiencies we carry in our system, we have moved also many miles in as far as preservation of our democracy, our sovereignty, and trying our absolute best to get going in life. Stanley Hotel was not there in 1975. Hilton Hotel was not there in 1975, let alone in 2015 or 2010, for instance. And so we have come even in the midst of our shortcomings. And I want to say, our shortcomings are acknowledged far and wide. In the first instance, my government, since 2019, have said, first thing first, grow our economy at the very earliest. And in the midst of growing economy, how do we replace imports? How do we ramp up exports? How do we expand the economy and not rely just on one or two sectors? Since the 1990s, we have fallen back into being reliant on just mining and petroleum sector. And since we came into office in 2019, we've been saying, let's diversify our economic base. Today, if you look into our statistics, we've now posted for the first time 4%, about 4% growth in non-mining and petroleum sector. That aspect of our economy, for the first time since 1975, sees 4 years running about 4% growth in the non-mining and petroleum sector. And so some slight movement in the pendulum in as far as our focus to grow economy, but in my view, there are much more work we can do, and that is the reason why Minister Marape has been expressly appointed to be the minister responsible for special economic zone, trade and investment, and mobilizing international investors to come into economy. And I want to register my great support and my great commendation to the work Minister Marape has done since he assumed this portfolio in August of 2022. Today, as we speak, 4 SEZs have been licensed: the Pagahid SEZ, the Pacific Cement and Lime SEZ, the Sea Park SEZ, the Coastal Bay SEZ, and many more. Potentially many more SEZ licenses we can do, but impediments are there, and the experiences that we are learning from, and I want to appreciate all of you who contribute expert advices to us. Those experiences tell us that we must eliminate the impediments to successfully operate SEZs in our country, as we also encourage more of you investors to come into our space. And I want to summarize by speaking at a headline. In the face of our nation's 50th, Papua New Guinea may not be as bad as many are telling the story. I pick up one sector. If you invest in the real estate space, just ask any real estate investors. The same money you put into a property in Sydney or in Beijing or in Port Moresby. In Port Moresby, you would make it back in 12 years. In Sydney, you would make it back in 40 years. In Beijing, you would make it back in 30 years if you like. I repeat, the same money, X dollar, you invest in properties in 3 cities, Port Moresby, Sydney, or Beijing. Port Moresby, you'll make it back in 12 years. Sydney, you'll make it back in 40 years. In Beijing, you'll make it back in 10 years. And so in terms of return on investment, we do have success stories in our midst. And investors who operated in our economy have found a nice return on investment in as far as their commensuration of the effort and investment is concerned. I give you another example. We are a nation that honors our agreements. Today I may not like everything and the agreement that we have with one of our major fuel importers. But just because I don't agree doesn't mean I will throw up the agreement. Papua New Guinea honors our agreements. And so we let that company operates still until the license or the agreement period lapses or runs out. You look at what we have in some of our minings. I do not agree with some of the mining agreement that was signed earlier, but government come in, do not break up this agreement. We respect the agreement to run its course. Why am I giving you these examples? I want to give assurance to every one of you, especially those of you just coming new and are fresh. You would have picked, your ears would be ringing in as far as the sensitivity and the headlines that keep on going on. But what do you find? ExxonMobil, the #1 oil and gas investor in our country, 100 years going. ExxonMobil's been here for 100 years. They first arrived in Rabat in 1922, and they're still here today as I speak. I just use that as one example. Why do you have one of the biggest and oldest company, also the Steamship Rural Company? They are a 100 years old company in our country, still operating silently, contributing to the economy. Steamships still operate here. Steamship's major shareholders they also own Cathay Pacific and many other good businesses out there, based out of Hong Kong, based out of UK. They've been here for over 100 years. They successfully run business in our country. These are examples of investors who found residence in our country and are successfully run. When ExxonMobil came in 2008 for PNG LNG, they were able to deliver PNG LNG in a most complicated sort of environment. Over 60,000 landowners, 5 provinces, what seemed like a harsh terrain. At the backdrop of a global financial crisis in 2008, ExxonMobil made financial investment decisions, over $18 billion worth of investment commitment made, mobilized financing from 22 cartels of global financial institutions that mobilized financing to finance that $18 billion FID sanctioned project. Later on, project cost went to $22 billion. Yet they delivered on schedule, first gas sold on schedule, despite what seemed like a very complex oil and gas project in PNG. This is an example of government and investors working hand in hand in partnership to make sure the country wins as well as the investor wins. And I want to give full assurance to all investors that we appreciate the fact that investors must make a return on investment. And in the SEZ conversations, to those investors who come from China, I hear a big group who came in from China, the UAE, Australia, and elsewhere. I want to say thank you for picking up your tickets and finding time to be with us in our most important year. Going forward into the next 50 years, we're structuring our country to be an investor-friendly country. We will respect investors' return on investment. We will give you incentive where it is appropriate. And for those who want to come into some of our special economic zones, I want to say, if you are replacing imports, you will receive special and extra support from my government. I repeat, if you are replacing import, we want to substitute import, especially in key areas. And I put this on the floor for conversations in the next 1 or 2 days. And going forward, those in special economic zones, that businesses that will replace import, you will receive special support. And I want to comment, for instance, the cement and lime project we launched at Kido Central Province, Central Lime Cement, just out of the city. I would also comment others who have started the process of entering into business that will replace import for us. These are sort of business that in the first instance we will give extra support, but any one of you, the whole concept of SEZ, as I advise, is about giving incentive to investors to come in. And I speak with little qualification in the SEZ space, but speaking from a beholder of public policy, I want to give you full assurance that any and every incentive that is out there, we will make sure we give to those of you who find resident in our special economic zones or a special economic zone that you may propose, so that you settle, you participate in business. Our country has second to none in as far as our propensity or yield in natural resources concerned. Hydrocarbons, minerals, agriculture, fisheries, forestry, green products also, and something that is of advantage to us that many nations do not have, is as you produce in Papua New Guinea, you will be producing in a carbon negative country. In the world of environmental consciousness, Papua New Guinea is now becoming a pronounced carbon negative country. Our carbon footprint right now aggregates to about 10 million metric tons of carbon footprint. But our carbon sink propensity and ability is over 100 million metric tons. And so we are by far hugely carbon negative. And all business who operate in our country, we will dovetail a certificate that should give you a green certificate that your produce in our country is labeled green, meaning you have no carbon footprint as you operate in our special economic zones in our country. So to conclude, I want to say, PNG still remains a robust democracy. Any agreement signed will run its course and be honored. We have no record of governments that come after agreement has been signed, breaking and tearing up previously signed agreement. We value agreement signed so long as it is legit and it is in congruent to the laws that govern and administers our land. Agreements will live and run its course. And so, as a free democratic country, the benefits of democracy is available to those who operate in the economy. That includes a total free market economy. That includes a very, very independent and robust judiciary. The judiciary is not in any way, shape and form influenced by the national government. Judiciary is totally independent. It has been that way since 1975. And my current generation of leaders, we are working to entrench the independence of our judiciary. Right now, there's a major reform going on. There'll be a Supreme Court, elevated, isolated from a national court and an appeals court that is inserted in between. That will be staffed by many judges. We are recruiting judges from competent, similar jurisdictions, whether from Hong Kong or from Singapore or from New Zealand, Australia. We want international judges also to be stacked up in a court system so that investors and people of our country who work inside knows they have a competent, independent judiciary that can adjudicate on disputes better. For me, the reason why I speak on the independence of judiciary is to give comfort to every one of you. As you come and invest, you're investing under the shade of the laws that govern your business. And we want to give comfort that as you invest, you're not investing at the whim of a minister signing or sitting over signing of the agreement, etc. The laws of the country protects you, and a fair adjudication process deals with any dispute in the land. We also, in terms of aiding the work of our judiciary, bringing home into PNG international arbitration as well as international mediation. So there'll be a mediation center and there'll also be an arbitration center. So if there are disputes in the economy or disputes in country, then you have similar competent Singapore-style, UAE-style or international-style arbitrators in our country adjudicating on matters of importance, so we just quickly run through instead of being stagnant or not being progressed at all. So the work of the judiciary is being looked at to augment and protect the democracy we have, and all of us who operate in PNG as business residents or individuals can truly live in a country that protects your business or individual rights. As I talk on the other advantage of Papua New Guinea, I look into the next 10 and 20 years. We have Minister Marape in the video outlet indicate about 8 projects lined up in the next 10 years. If I pull the curtain beyond, or timeline beyond the next 10 years and go to the next 20 years, we have proven resources already, close to 20 of them in the mining and petroleum space. We sequence them properly in the next 20 years. that should deliver our country 200 billion Kenya economy, if not earlier, certainly by 2035. And by 2045, when our nation celebrates 70 years of independence, in my view, we could have easily gone past our 500 billion Kenya economy. And this is the work of constructing an economy that sustains a country as big as PNG. And deep in the heart and soul of this focus to grow economy lies our SEZ conversation. And it makes this tonight's session, the next 2 days, more so relevant. So I want to say you're in the right place, doing the right thing. We are focused on growing the economy. Those of you who have business interest in us, we want to advise and ask you, don't leave this country without exchanging your contact numbers with resident and local investors. One of them is here, for instance, came in as a forester over 50 years ago, later diversified, today owns this hotel and has made a fair go as far as return on his investment. Those was investment decisions made 50 years ago with no SEZ consideration. Today we want more to come in. We've never chased them out. Anyone who comes in, so long as you pay your tax, remain obedient to our laws, and work with us, incubate other local businesses who are there waiting to work for you as contractor or partner, investor partners. You work with them, certainly you'll make more profit here than anywhere else, especially in advanced economies. We want to make our regulatory environment not rigid and stiff, but also, whilst protecting our national interests, but at the same time give a fair place for investors to invest in. You make money, country collects tax, a subcontractor or spin-offs it's a natural beneficiary of your investment, and together we can all enjoy the blessings God has given Papua New Guinea. Thank you too much for listening in. I wish each and every one of you a successful sessions coming up, and I will certainly pick up a copy of all your deliberations. We have the United Nations Secretary General coming in on Tuesday. He will be in town. He'll be spending 4 days with us. Unprecedented. United Nations Secretary General coming in, and something that is also beneficial to those of you who are choosing to invest in us. Whilst UAE may be the center of gravity right now in the Middle East, in my view, but Papua New Guinea will be the center of gravity going forward into the future. Mark my word on this one. Don't get this wrong. We will complement our friends in elsewhere, but for us in PNG, we now a member of ASEAN. Very soon we'll be full member of ASEAN. We're a member of APEC. We also a member of PIF, and we live in an Asian world. In the Asian world that is coming up, the next 100 years will be driven by Indonesia, ASEAN, India, China, Japan will still be there. They're a very advanced economy. South Korea, and these are all friends of Papua New Guinea. I repeat, for investors, whether you're from West or East, Papua New Guinea dominant foreign policy that is a blueprint of my party is friends to all, enemies to none. And this is the concluding bit now. Our friends to all and enemies to none will never be compromised in geopolitics. We will maintain friendship with all nations, and especially in our neighborhood. Australia is already, we're almost like twins. And then you got Indonesia next door. You have New Zealand, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines. For me, as a producer of natural resources and going to downstreaming, my market is not in Africa. My market is not in Europe. My market is really not in North America or South America. I got my market next door to my home, and I will not compromise my market. And so for those who choose to invest in us, we will expand the horizon, maintain friends to all enemies now, produce. Our 10 million market is small, will not be enough for you to make a return on investment. Come take up residency in our free market economy. Come take up residency, produce here from my natural resources, supply to my people at lower price, and supply to the market I establish at a good price that should sustain the businesses going forward. Thank you very much. God bless.